Hi everyone and welcome back to Story of the World Highlights. Today we'll be discussing Chapter 30. Chapter 30 takes us into two different regions and the formation of two different countries. Let's start with India. So, as you may have remembered when we learned about Gandhi the first time, India was really fighting for its independence, and finally the British agreed. But this didn't actually take place until after World War II. And a lot of the things that were stopping its progress were the fact that the two different major groups in India, the Muslims and the Hindus, could not agree on a type of government that would satisfy both of them. You see, the Hindus, who were the majority of India, didn't want India to be partitioned or split. And they wanted to work together and follow Gandhi and living in peace. The Muslims knew as a minority that they would never fully have a say in India. And so they wanted to have their own country where they were not the minority and could guarantee that they could live the way they wanted to live. On top of that, there were some major religious differences between the two that also interfered. Now, one of the big proponents of this split was a group known as the Muslim League. The Muslim League was a group that said that they were pushing for a partition for their own Muslim country, and they would use force if necessary. And the leader of this league was Muhammad Ali Jinnah, and he was really pushing for this. Now, again, the other side is Gandhi and their views of no partition. Unfortunately for Gandhi, they did decide finally to split India and partition it. So on August 15th, 1947, the partition officially took place. We saw the creations of West Pakistan and East Pakistan, and there was a dispute over the northern region known as Kashmir. And so the decision was to split that region in half, the top being Pakistan Kashmir and the lower one being Indian Kashmir. Now, this partition you would think is a joyous event, but it actually displaced over 15,000 people, or 15 million people, excuse me. And displaced means that they were living somewhere and now they were forced to leave their homes. You see, being a Hindu in a Muslim country was no longer safe, and vice versa, being Muslim in a Hindu country was no longer safe. We saw fights break out between the two almost instantly. Now, Gandhi was very upset and troubled by these riots, so he decided to fast as a form of protest against this. Now, whether they were Muslim or Hindu, they all respected Gandhi and they didn't want him to die from fasting, so riots did die down. But just because the majority of the two places did not want to see Gandhi die does not mean that everyone didn't want to see him die. In fact, there was a few people that didn't like Gandhi. And one day when Gandhi was being moved with support from his fasting, we saw somebody in a crowd shoot and kill Gandhi. And his name was Nathuram Godse. So in this, we saw India being partitioned and the creation of Pakistan. We also unfortunately saw the death of Gandhi. Now, the second part of this chapter brings us to Palestine and Israel. So to start off, this is an issue that you have probably heard a lot about because it's still going on today. It hasn't been resolved. And so this area, which if you can see the green, predominantly green one, in 1946 at the end of World War II, is an area that's right across the water from Egypt in what we remember as the Ottoman Empire region. Now, this land for the last 1,000 years was a Palestinian land. Palestinians are Arabs, so they have Muslim faith. Now, at the end of 1946, we saw a key interest in finding a country that could be all to the Jewish people. They could make their own rules. They would no longer be persecuted or attacked just because they had a different religion. And after the Holocaust, lots of people in the world wanted to help them achieve that. When considering where they should go, we actually saw a lot of Jewish people referencing a passage in the Bible. And in the Bible, it told them that God would one day return them to their homeland. Their homeland originally was Jerusalem. You might remember back in book 3, we talked about how Alexander the Great and the Roman Empire, those people came through that region of Persia. Well, during that time, they had pushed the Jewish people out. And so the Jewish people then moved to places like Europe. Now, back to what this promise was that God would bring them back to that homeland. So that homeland is Jerusalem, the city of Jerusalem, a holy city. And the people who believed in this idea were known as Zionists. And the idea was known as Zionism, because Zion was the Hebrew name for Jerusalem. And so they wanted to go back to their homeland, Jerusalem. But there was a problem. Jerusalem was now part of Palestine, and Palestinians lived there. But the UN didn't see another way to find a good spot for the Jewish people. So the UN wanted to help the Jews after World War II make this happen, create this country of Israel. But again, another group of people, the Palestinians, called it home as well for over 1,000 years. And so there was a question of what to do then. There came the partition idea. The UN decided that they would partition the two areas so that there could be a Jewish country, Israel, and there could be the Muslim country, Palestine. Now, in 1947, enough votes for this idea passed in the UN. And in 1948, on May 14th, Israel was officially born. Now, almost immediately, fights broke out between the Palestinians and the Israelis. And we saw a lot of Arab nations coming to the support of the Palestinians to fight against Israel, because the Palestinians did not get a good deal in this partition. Going back to our original map, this was originally Palestine after World War II. This was the UN's plan, green being Palestine and the yellow being Israel. And in 1967, this is what we saw. And even today, the Palestinians are losing a lot of their land. So this was a problem that was not fixed then and is still not fixed now. But the partition did happen, and we saw the creation of Israel, a Jewish country. That's it for chapter 30, and I'll see you next time for Story of the World Highlights. Bye-bye.